Welcome to my kitchen for another Tasty Tuesday. Thanks again for being here. I appreciate it and I love seeing you every Tuesday. Today I'm sharing with you something very close to my heart, something from the Puget Sound and the Pacific Northwest where I grew up, Dungeness crab. When I was a kid, we had Dungeness crab very often, and today it's much harder to get and expensive if you buy it in the store. But when we were kids, we used to go out, we'd wade around in the water. My dad would take like a old broom handle or rake handle, put chicken wire, a big round thing of chicken wire on the end of it, and we would walk around in the shallow water and scoop Dungeness crab up. It was so simple. Today, most people use pots in deep water, but the crab I'm sharing with you today, I actually purchased. I have 3 pounds of beautiful Dungeness crab meat that we have cleaned and made sure there are no bits of shell in there. And I'm gonna make crab cakes today. These are not like Maryland blue crab cakes. This crab is the best crab in the world. Okay, maybe I'm a little biased, but it has so much more flavor than what you get in Maryland or anywhere else in the world. We've had crabs in Asia, even in South America, and the flavor is never like Dungeness crab. So when I'm making crab cakes with Dungeness crab, you don't want to add a whole lot of stuff to it. Never would I put Old Bay in my crab cakes because it already has so much flavor. So I add just a little bit of veg, some panko, and eggs to hold it together. So I'll walk you through this recipe. 3 pounds of Dungeness crab is going to make a lot of crab cakes. We're going to have some crab cakes for our dinner tonight, and the rest of these are going into the freezer for me to serve at Christmas. And actually, even the ones we're going to eat tonight, I'm going to put them in the freezer for, I don't know, half an hour or so, because when they're a little bit frozen, they're much easier to handle, and I can put them straight into the frying pan. So let's get started. So the first thing is 3 pounds of Dungeness crab meat. And at the end of this video, I'll tell you how much this recipe made, because I've sort of tripled this, I guess, and you could easily do it with just 1 pound of crab meat, but this is what I had. So to 3 pounds of Dungeness crab meat, I am adding 2 onions, 2 yellow onions, and 1½ red bell peppers that I have already sautéed on the stovetop, and I dice them very fine. That's really important. Again, you don't want a lot of big chunks of things in here because you really want to be tasting the crab. So for 3 pounds of crab meat, I used 2 medium-sized onions and 1½ red peppers. I would never put green peppers in here, just too strong and too bitter. All right, to that, and let those cool down, by the way, before. So I did those ahead. They've been sitting on the stove and cooling. I have 5 whole eggs. I have 1/3 cup of Italian chopped parsley, or any kind of parsley. This is 3 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire sauce, one of those words I love to say, kind of like mise en place. I love that. I say that as often as I can. In here, I have 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon of white pepper. Now this is 3/4 cup of mayo, and this is one of the binders. And I'm going to stir this up before I add the panko. So let me get that taken care of. Okay, so I've got this pretty well mixed, and now the reason I wanted to stir it up before I added the panko is that I don't want this too dry. So I have 1½ cups of panko, and I'm gonna put in about half of it for starters. And then I'm gonna have a look and see how it's doing. I will also put this into the refrigerator for a few minutes after we mix it all together to let it set up a little bit before I start forming the patties. All right, it's a little wet, so let's put some more panko in. That's probably about a cup now. And I think, well, I've only got about a quarter of a cup. I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of it in. Okay, and it smells good already. It's very pretty, but mostly crab. Despite everything that we just added, it doesn't have a lot of filler in it, and that's what I'm going for. All right, so this is all stirred up. I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator and come back in about 30 minutes and start making the patties. So our crab has been in the fridge maybe 25 minutes, and it seems firm enough. And I also got my scale out because this one is the size I'm making for our dinner tonight, and it's coming in at about 109 grams or 3.8 ounces. And so we will have each, for 2 people tonight, we'll each eat 3 of those with a salad and I don't know what else. I think maybe some potatoes. The smaller one is what I'm making the appetizer size for Christmas. And my scale tells me the smaller one is coming in at 55 grams or about 2 ounces. So I'm not going to weigh every one of these. I will eyeball the size as I go along. But I really wanted to know how big they were, and then we'll know in the end how many I'm actually getting out of this recipe. So to make these, I just use my hands. I don't use a spoon. I just start taking some into the palm of my hand, and I usually make a little bit of a ball, and then I just press it down. So having these 2 samples here makes it easy for me to just kind of look at them and figure out how much I need. And so there's my second big one. That might be a little smaller than the first one, so let's make another big one here. And it's a little bit wet. So my crab was in the freezer, and I thawed it out actually in the fridge for a couple of days. And then I put it in a colander and let it drain. I wanted to get as much moisture out of it as I could. But so since it was frozen, the one thing I might suggest is if you're using frozen crab meat, maybe not as much mayo as I just put in there. I put in 3/4 cup for this 3 pounds of crab, and I probably should have just started with a 1/2 cup and then saw how it went. But actually they're coming together nice. So those look beautiful. After I get my 6 big ones made for dinner tonight, I will work on the small ones, and then I'll come back when they're all ready, and I'll show you how we fry them up. Oh, and I'll also show you how we freeze them up. So it's a great thing to do ahead for any kind of entertaining. And although you do need to make them, they'll need to be fried shortly before you're going to serve them, but it doesn't take that long. So, okay, so I'll keep working on this, and we'll come back in a few minutes. Hey everybody, welcome back, and it's time to cook our crab cakes. So all the small ones I have put into the freezer, and these larger ones, now I've heated up my cast iron skillet, and I'm going to turn it up a little bit. They should only take a couple of minutes on each side. And oh, by the way, so I was doing the measurements, and I think from this recipe, 3 pounds of Dungeness crab meat, I could make 40 about 45 of the small ones and about 20 of the larger ones. So especially for an appetizer, 45 is a good number. So that's about what we're getting out of, if you could do big or small, whatever, but that's about the quantity that we get out of that much. So I have just a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of my cast iron skillet, and it's starting to bubble. I got one in there already. I might have put it in a little bit too soon. We have a little bit of leftover hollandaise sauce from Eggs Benedict yesterday, and we're going to serve that with our crab cakes tonight. Some sweet potato fries and tomato and mozzarella salad. So that'll be really yummy. And I have served this without any sauce, also with tartar sauce. And one time, I was at an event where they did crab cakes, and they served it with the most, it was a catered event, the most spectacular dipping sauce, which was actually a reduction of Cabernet Sauvignon. And who would have thought? I mean, you'd think crab cakes, you'd only want to put a white wine with it. This brilliant caterer took an entire bottle of Chateau Saint Michel Cabernet Sauvignon, reduced it very slowly on a stovetop. It was the most lovely, delicious, syrupy dip, and with the crab, it was spectacular. I've never tried it. I've thought about it 1,000 times. I don't know why I haven't. So maybe I will now, maybe for Christmas. But tonight we're having it with a little bit of hollandaise sauce. Okay, so here they are, and it's only going to take just a couple of minutes, and I don't want them to stick, but I also want them to cook through, and they smell just beautiful. Oh, that one was really pretty. Let's try this one. Okay, they're looking just gorgeous. And I only got 4 in this pan, but that'll give us plenty to start with. Okay, here is our beautiful Dungeness Crab Cakes. Can you smell them? They smell amazing. And we added some red pepper, some onion, some parsley, a little bit of salt and pepper and garlic powder, some mayonnaise, and eggs, and panko. And all of that in small quantities so that what we really are tasting is the spectacular Dungeness crab from the Pacific Northwest, my home. I hope you'll try this recipe. It's super easy, it's super delicious, and now we're gonna go eat these for dinner. Have a great day. See you next week.